day, so all good.
Good. All right. Hey, Corey, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Proper introduction of Lauren. I don't remember if you record, online or anything like that. Yeah, so do an introduction there.
Okay. We're all set, right?
This is it.
Okay, all right. I was just making sure. Okay. I just want to welcome everyone to today's executive committee and the eve of February. And call the meeting to order. You have the agenda.
I think we have to go live.
Oh, sorry. Are we live?
It does say live being sent.
Yes, we are live.
Okay.
Okay, and we are live. All right. Pressure's on. All right, we have copies of the agenda here. We have some guests online. And let's just take a second. Hold on. Let me stop. Well, I feel like I should just welcome folks.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I like to start doing business and not welcome everybody. So we have with us today, we have Abby Gump and Lauren Coleman at the AG's office. And I'm here. Hi, Melanie Clark. Lisa's here. And Joe is here online.
Yeah, we got Lauren Woodson Hall, who's in Richmond right now. So thank you for joining us, Lauren. And Cord Cothran is Cord. I know you get stuck having to substitute bus drive and stuff when staff shortage is around. So I know you get time squeezed. So thank you for joining us.
Yep.
And Jennifer is here. I have a feeling her first meeting and having snacks is something to do with her, but we'll keep going. Thank you. That was very nice.
Well, Dr. Piper,
Okay.
he helped a lot.
Oh.
I think it's because of me. I missed lunch. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so I have the agenda, approval of the minutes. Have you reviewed those from November 15th? Is there a first or a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
You'll have to come. It's like Cord.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the November 15th minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, I've already provided a welcome to the AG representatives, but Joe, I don't know if you want to mention a little bit change in structure or share that.
Sure. Well, actually, if I could turn it over
Okay.
to our team here to talk about a change in structure at the AG's office leading to Lauren becoming our new rep here. So Abby, do you want to handle that?
Well, you just said all the things.
Okay, all right.
So this is Lauren. Our office, we just hired Lauren and we're thrilled because we've been understaffed for quite a while. So we're doing a restructuring and Lauren is going to be the new appointed representative for the Museum of Natural History from the Office of the Attorney General. So this is kind of a transition point and she'll fully take over the reins. Today we're kind of collaborating and then it's all her after this. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
What are we doing to celebrate Abby?
Milanos. No, we'll raise a glass of toast tonight. They're gonna join us for dinner. Are you joining us for dinner? Okay, are you joining us for dinner?
No,
Okay,
probably not.
all right, okay. All right, so we'll definitely raise a glass too. What's it been? 2 years? 3
Yeah.
years?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks. Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way. No.
That's why.
When you said Milano's, I was like, is that a new restaurant?
They're so.
We never buy that.
Where did you come from?
Yeah, so I'm from Virginia. I feel like I've lived throughout the state, but did law school down at William and Mary in Williamsburg, and then I lived in Roanoke for several years, which I know is not too far from here, and was working at a firm there, and then I've also been in Charlottesville and now I'm in Richmond, so I'm excited to work with you all and everything.
And who else are you gonna be representing in your work? Is that other museums by chance?
Yeah, we'll be helping with other museums.
Okay, good.
Yeah, some, I think with like the Frontier Culture
Right,
Museum.
Good colleagues of ours as they're going through, well, I forget where they've completed detailed design of the crossings gallery or.
Yeah, I haven't actually had a chance
I haven't like, gotten to meet everyone and like learn
Sure.
everything that's going on yet, but,
Oh, we know it's
that
drinking
makes
from a
sense.
fire hose.
Yeah.
So we get it, so.
Yeah.
And incidentally, my wife, is, from, if I'm getting the phrasing right, from the tribe.
Oh,
Yeah, as well, and our archaeology team, Hayden and Maddie Bassett are both graduates of William and Mary, so it's been a great connection. In fact, they loaned us their library, your library, loaned us a really cool, not an original, but let's just call it an antique copy of Pliny the Elder's, what was his called? Historiae Naturalis.
yeah.
Right, and it was the first ever natural history compendium that we are aware that's was ever written. It was written about 2,000 years ago. So yeah, so this was like 1600s vintage book or something like that they
Yeah.
loaned us, so it was really cool.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love all the history, like, I was a history major and just like love all the,
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much history in Virginia with natural history and
Well, tomorrow, you'll actually have a chance to check out a new acquisition that we have. So it's going to be the 250th of the US upcoming, and we have the whole VA 250 thing going on. So in celebration of that, we had one of our foundation board members gave us a nice donation to purchase a first edition copy of Thomas Jefferson's Notes on the State of Virginia. So we have that downstairs right now, and so we'll bring that to the board meeting. Oh, it's cool, right? It's like, it's, I wouldn't say it's pristine condition, but it's excellent condition. And it has the fold out map as well
Wow.
of Virginia, and as such, a little historical, whatever you want to call it, is that it is a first English edition book, but the map is from the second edition, but it's the same map. It was just published later, so we don't understand who did what, but it just is what it is. But they're both very, very cool. So we'll have a chance to check that out tomorrow. Elizabeth Carter Bailey's from the foundation board. So,
Okay, that's what I was.
so yeah,
I didn't see
so-
your face.
right. So, hi, Elizabeth.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, maybe she's just kind of.
She's just listening.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Hi, I'm sorry. Hi. Hi.
Thanks for joining us. So, Lauren, we have two boards. We have the Board of Trustees, which we're dealing with right now, but we also have a nonprofit foundation board, and Elizabeth is one of our foundation board directors. So, yeah, they'll be meeting in 2 weeks, following up this meeting.
So back on the Jefferson thing really quickly.
Mhm.
He also wrote a much less well-known book, but it really wasn't a book. It was a letter about traveling in Europe. And he wrote it as a guide for some young men that were doing their trip to Europe, as one does back then, I guess, if you're super duper rich. And a gentleman has just written a book about Jefferson's travels in Europe using that letter as a central part of his book. And so I'm about halfway through the book, which is about Jefferson's book. It's not Jefferson's book. I've got to go find that book. But it's all about the different places Jefferson went, and some of them still exist. Like some of the wineries he went to still exist. Some of the hotels he stayed in still exist. So this guy's trying to retrace Jefferson's steps, which is really interesting. So I'll have to send, if anybody's interested, I'll have to send the title of that book around. It's a good book.
Yeah, send it to Jennifer and she
Okay.
can distribute it to everyone.
Yeah,
So-
it's not about the natural history of Virginia, but it's a lot about natural history in Europe, surprisingly.
Well, that's what started the Jefferson to write that book, Notes on the State of Virginia, because the Europeans called the U.S., well, they referred to U.S. as the American degeneracy.
Yeah.
Because they thought our natural resources were so poor compared to Europe, and Jefferson was very eager to prove them wrong. So he wrote the book. That's why our book is called the first English edition, because the actual first printing of the book was in French, so he could rapidly ship it off to the French to stick it in their face. So, yeah. So we're gonna be putting together a small exhibit in time for the 250th on all
Great.
that
You
whole thing. So maybe we
know
can,
about this other book.
yeah, no, maybe
Yeah,
that
yeah,
can be something to beef it up.
Yeah,
You know?
or something we can sell.
That's a
No
good
problem.
point.
It's unpublished, it's published right now.
Nice. Okay, that's not a bad idea at all. But sorry to,
Oh, that's exciting. Look forward to it. And then also want to note, we have 3 new board members, Dr. David Firth, Miss Kathy Hinker, their bios are included in tomorrow's agenda, and then Mr. Will Clements was recently appointed. Do you know if they will be, the three of them will be in attendance?
They will be, David will, join us for dinner tonight, so some of, the group will get a chance to meet him tonight. And, Kathy and Will be, joining us for the board meeting. I extended invitations for the facilities and the concurrent research and collections and education meetings tomorrow, so that'll be up to them.
Well, that's great. So they will introduce themselves tomorrow, so that's exciting to have three. And are two replacements
So, it was,
filling a vacancy?
it was Mukunda's, Dr. Abdullahi's seat, and it was Sherry Jordan, who didn't want to do a second 5-year term. And unfortunately, I don't know what happened. I'm not privy to these things, but Roberto Quinones was not reappointed.
Oh,
So they recruited Will to take his place.
So Roberto is already off the board.
Right, so. Yeah, his term ended back in June, but we were waiting to hear, what was gonna happen. So, but they don't give me information.
Yeah.
They just basically say, hey, we got this new board member for you. It's like, okay. So Will was literally appointed to us like Thursday.
Oh.
Or no, wait, was it last week? Yeah, last Thursday or Friday.
Was so late.
Yeah.
he's chair of a bank, so
Yes.
out of Richmond?
Well, it's Petersburg is area.
Okay.
There, I don't remember the name of the town. I'm not familiar with it, but it's right off 85. I don't know, what, 10 miles south of Petersburg.
So it's in our package for tomorrow, which I have not diligently read yet.
It was an email,
Oh,
and then I had to do Googling. I was just like, who is this?
He has a strong IT background, so it's gonna be a different flavor of expertise on the board, which is also good because one of our foundation board members who's relatively new, Matt Bentz, also has a IT tech background as well, so that's good for us.
All right, well, I'm glad that they will be present. You said David was the one that'd be virtual. Did I make that up?
No, he made that up. They will all be.
I'll be present. Okay,
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm preparing for tomorrow. Okay. All right, Cord. You have a treasurer's report.
Yep. So, obviously everything's going really well. We had our meeting, a week later than normal because of weather and so forth, but, I'm just gonna hit a few of the big points, that Ryan gave us, but, our charitable giving is up 12%. Our overall combined, museum and foundation revenues up 7%. Growth is up 5%. Obviously, that's good. I thought one of the really big things though was that if you look at the very bottom point that Ryan gave us on the advancement report was that 61% of our visitors come from outside Martinsville, Henry County, which was really good. And if you look on the maps, one of the things that we talked about was that we are almost at, we're almost double-digit percentage from the Shenandoah Valley, which is really big for us considering our Waynesboro stuff. So that's 10% is coming down to see what everything's about. So I think that's just going to set us up for the future in Waynesboro.
Sorry, I'm a little behind on that. I thought I had this brought up, but so this is what Cord's referring to here. Cord, I'm just showing the advancement report map that you're speaking of.
Okay, yeah, it's page, if y'all have it in front of it, it's page 6 of on the report there. So it's really nice to see that, we're almost double digits there. We're 8% in the Blue Ridge, we're 8% in Central Virginia, but the 9% for Shenandoah Valley is really huge for us just because of the Waynesboro campus.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Cord?
No, I think really there's no sense in talking about the freezes and the unfreezes and this and that. So endowment balance was up 10% also. So that's really big. So, and I liked your report talking about from now until I believe it was fiscal year 40, we're going to be up $18 million. So I think that was a pretty good guesstimate there.
Yeah, we'll cover that in some depth tomorrow, but, yeah,
Yes.
if we extrapolate based upon both our current rate of absorption of gifts as well as return on investment, that we've had over the last decade, as long as that trend continues, that's how we'll reach those numbers. So it's just an extrapolation, but it certainly gives us, something to shoot for and to prepare this museum for future work.
Yes.
So what we're talking about, numbers, you sent out an email about some federal funding that we may no longer get. How big a deal is that?
It's not a big deal. It's nothing for us to worry about. It's a little sad. We're supposed to go to year 3 of our Wyoming dinosaur digs. We've been digging up a sauropod dinosaur out there for some time. So this is funded through National Science Foundation. A trip with all the students and everything is about $13,000. And so it looks like the word we have now is we're not going to get that. We may as well just kiss that goodbye. Same thing goes for some small amount of money that was going to move from the Smithsonian to Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab, but that's kind of a blip on their radar more than anything else. And interns, we believe, we don't know for sure, but we believe that hasn't been touched. And the reason we think it hasn't been touched is because we believe it's funded through the Smithsonian Trust, so sort of like our VMH Foundation, right? So that's good to go. So we should be getting 2 more interns that will be paid through the Smithsonian or through the Smithsonian Trust this coming summer.
Are we gonna try and find $13,000 so the dinosaur trip can
We've
continue?
already started, right? So yeah, we're gonna try to do something, and it also gives us a chance of reflection. What have we done over 2 years? Is this still the best investment of our funds as far as paleontology programs go? Right, so I'm out next week, and oh gosh, Adam is out in Maryland until the 4th. So when we're both back from our travels, we're going to have that discussion. But yeah, we've had that conversation in house about is there some way we can salvage at least a trip to do something? Because we get a lot of good publicity out of the dinosaur digs. Court, if it's okay with you, I'd also like to point out in terms of the financials that Jonathan provides, I would say most everything is pretty well spot on. Anytime we have a variance in the percentage versus 50%, because we're talking about halfway through the fiscal year, so our report ends December 31st. Any place where we have a variance, we're talking very small amounts of money, and so that's why they're kind of a little blown out. So our revenues are technically at 71% halfway through the fiscal year, and I believe our expenses are right at 50%. So we're a bit ahead of schedule in terms of.
Yeah, I think he mentioned maintenance was a little high. I think on expense too.
Yeah, and that can be pulsed, so we have more maintenance projects happening earlier in the fiscal year than later on. So that usually balances out by the end of the fiscal year. But if we need to move some money around, we certainly run that by the finance committee. Anything else you can think of to cover for the exec? We'll go into more details, of course, in the full board meeting, but I don't foresee any surprises.
Yeah, I didn't see anything there. Other than what was organizational memberships? We're well over that.
Those we pay off entirely at the beginning of the year, right? So that's membership with AAM, Association of Science and Technology Centers, Association Museum Directors, and a few chamber memberships. And so for those get paid. In fact, I'm sorry, Corey, we tend to pay those. No, that's sorry, getting ahead of myself here. We do pay those all out at the beginning of the fiscal year and just write that off.
Yeah, other than that one, we're right on schedule for everything else. So
I'm sorry to backtrack. So for the 3-year commitment with the dinosaur dig, was that a grant?
Yes.
And so it was a contractual agreement. I'm trying to wrap my mind around how you decide, like, I'm no longer honoring that, but does that make?
They're not honoring a lot. I mean, they're just pulling. It wasn't that specific. They're just pulling.
Well, I understand that, but I meant, if you make plans, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But does it just not make sense?
Well,
I mean, I've done a lot of grants
I
and
know.
like people depend on them. And I get like, it's just a dinosaur day, whatever. But like if you're providing a program and you can contractually agree to do that. Just,
would a granting agency like National Science Foundation, is that equivalent to a contract? I've never really thought about it that way. It was just an organization making a commitment. Because when I've gotten NSF grants in the past, the program officer writes me a kind letter. It says, congratulations, you've got this money for this amount of time. Right, and that's it. I don't know if it's seen as a contract, but
okay. I've always viewed them that way when I get
they
grants.
may be, I mean, it could be one of those, I mean, we've seen a lot of turmoil, and so it could be that it's gonna come back, but we can't really make plans.
Right.
Until we know we have money to pay for it.
I'm not sure we want to be a poster child for putting our hand up and saying.
I don't wanna be that. I was just asking the question.
Yeah, it's a
Like-
good question. Really good
Well,
question.
yeah, and really fix it on
I
stuff.
know a lot of the documentation mentions like a temporary pause. So I think a lot of us are probably keeping our fingers crossed that that temporary is a short time. But I guess what would the date need? I feel bad. I don't know the date of the dig and when
No.
that should be, but when would we be aiming for that when would it be good for us to know the pause is over so we could still go forward with the dig?
So, the granting period goes through, I believe, December 31st. They chose purposefully to be, and this has to do with our academic partners. They go during the summer, right?
Right.
And it also is when student availability is present because these digs involve mentorships out in the field, but also throughout the school year here at the museum. So, bottom line is that the actual dig part would take place around July. Since this is the final year, I believe somewhere around the end of the calendar year, we have to submit a final report.
How many years have we went there overall? Cause I mean, I remember hearing about these digs when I first came onto the board. And I mean, it seems like it's something that our museum does every year.
Yeah, it's actually been decades. It's been
Yeah.
before either of our time. And it's been funded repeatedly through National Science Foundation. I do believe National Geographic Society. And in the past, we've also had some corporate sponsorship. So we cobbled together a few of those. One that was it was a good collaboration between the hospitals, local foundation, which of course has been reorganized since then, and then a second corporate partner. I don't remember who that was offhand, but there's been a variety of ways we send people out there. We don't go every year, right? But it's a productive place. You know, the way the paleontologists work, and I'm not born and raised in that world, but basically you go to an area and you call dibs, and it's almost as good as legal, right? You know, once you start digging there, it's bad form for somebody else to go dig your spot.
So we need to figure out a way to continue it if it's not this year, next year.
Yeah. And I know, again, we're gonna have that hard conversation to make sure that this is still academically profitable for us, you know, but it's kind of, I mean, part of the reason we do a dinosaur dig is because we're a natural history museum and you're kind of expected, right? So if you're not, people are like, well, are you a real museum? You know, so there's kind of an attitude behind that as well. And I know that the team very much enjoys it, and it gives us really interesting things to talk to donors about.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay,
I would just like to see if there's a way that if we already have some fundage and we need to be here, what's the difference? And if there's a way we could somehow make that up so we wouldn't miss a year going.
Yeah, and I don't know how critical it is. I'd have to ask really, you know, if there's anything that's partially excavated, because they can partially excavate something and then protect it with some plaster and rebury it, you know, and that I know has an expiration date, you know, so, or it could be that they did everything they needed to do at the end of this year and there's nothing waiting for them, so
Right.
they're gonna dig another, you know, they go to the next plot over and continue the dig. But I'll touch base with Adam after next week. Lauren?
I just was pulling up some information I had gotten about the pause because we had a lot of constituents reach out about it. It looks like February 10th, all of these agencies have to submit a report about their funding. So hopefully by February 10th or a few days after that, we may know what the next steps are in this pause.
That's
Um,
corner, February 10th isn't that long. That's hopeful, real hopeful to know.
Mhm.
more.
Yeah. So you know, that this document was put out by the executive office of the president, the management and budget team. So I'm assuming that's reliable.
Okay, well, that's good. That is good to know. I just wouldn't want anyone on our team to think, oh, well, we're not going. If it's important, then.
No, we've already
it's-
had the
Yeah,
discussion. so,
okay,
yeah.
perfect. Okay. And yes, tomorrow is February 1st, that's hopefully. All right, Court, do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Joe?
Okay, as far as museum operation goes, I have a few things to bring up. The first being, I just want to make sure I'm not being duplicative later on in the agenda. First thing is strategic planning. So everyone should have received the strategic planning document. So just to review, we had our strategic retreat. We developed a one-page document. We then shared that with both boards and some of our constituents, and folks came back with further thoughts and so forth. So it's evolved to a two-page document. So all I'm going to say at this point is that it is going well. We have all of the material necessary for developing our next strategic plan. The strategic planning committee did not meet this quarter, so we didn't make any progress on highlighting what of these points are really percolating to the top. So that will have to be done here shortly. So I know we have AM accreditation on the agenda later, but the calendar as we're looking at it right now is that we have the reaccreditation process upcoming that should be concluded by midsummer. While I personally do not anticipate any red flags that would even come close to causing them to table our reaccreditation, good reviewers do come up with suggestions. So one thing I know that they're gonna look into, and I know the curators are prepared to discuss, they realize that our collections databases need upgrade, right? And the system we use is not good for kind of a public front, nor for doing online searches. So they're talking about it's gonna be time to migrate to a new system. And if I were a reviewer, yeah, I know. If I were a reviewer of this museum, that would be something I would put in my report, not as a red flag or a yellow flag. It would just be like, hey, this is something that they're doing. And so we're gonna look at whatever they put in there from this report that we'll receive during the summer and see if there's anything that we should augment the strategic plan with. Then that gives us an opportunity to put out a public document in the November timeframe. And we feel that that's actually advantageous because we can piggyback that onto our annual fund campaign. But secondly, we'll have hard copies of it, nice. We're talking about what the format will look like. We want something that's attractive, that we can give away, but that will also be our General Assembly leave behind for 2026. So I think the timing is good for all of that. So it'll still be a strategic plan for 2025 to 2030.
So, I had asked that the strategic plan be shared with the staff for input, that I didn't think the strategic plan should just come from the board. Was it shared with the staff so that they could provide input?
Yeah, we use leadership team for that. So everyone's had an opportunity to take that and bring it back to their staff and derive input, honestly, there's not a lot, we still have, the staff have provided, yeah, and the staff have had some really interesting ideas. One, believe it or not, I don't want to get into this big thing, but it was something I would have never thought of, but our marketing manager, Zach, who might be listening in, one of our kind of staff retreats some years back, he said, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a media station here, have our own TV or radio station, or maybe some internet version of it or something like that we're doing science-y programming and stuff like that. And I thought, a media lab, might be kind of cool. So staff can come up with interesting ideas. And of course, you know, there's still plenty of time for input from anybody at this point.
Is Mark chairing the strategic plan?
Yes,
Okay.
so he's been preoccupied,
Right.
you know, with business. It's nothing,
Right,
it's nothing
okay.
bad, unfortunately.
Is that, he would replace Roberto's?
Yes,
Okay.
It's not gonna be here this weekend.
no. No, Melanie will be running our meeting.
Go Melanie.
There you go.
We're gonna get out for lunch. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Well,
I'm gonna hold you to that.
just be careful. We have at each one of your seats, you all have to write a donor thank you note. So we have a card and an addressed envelope, and you don't get your lunch until you write one card, so.
That's a good idea.
So, all right, so I'm gonna leave it up for the next thing I wanted to mention in museum operations was, one of the things that I wanted to do with my executive director report tomorrow is I do have 5 slides about a historical perspective on the museum to show how we've evolved over the past decade and a half, right? I can walk through this here with the executive committee if you want, or, you know, we could, share screen and so forth. But you know, it's entirely up to you. Do you want to wait and just have that as a full board? It's more of a historical thing to put things to perspective, right? So is it something you want to go through now?
No.
Okay.
If you want feedback, but if you're ready, I mean,
Well, we
trust
get
you.
feedback. Oh, I see what you're saying, but.
If you wanted any feedback
Do you
now.
want-
No, I don't, not really. You know, it's not what I was looking for, but I don't know that, we need to go through it twice. All right.
I'm fine with
So
it.
I'll be happy to go through that tomorrow. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up for, last 2 things I wanted to bring up for museum operations. One is our events. We have a couple of neat events coming up that, in fact, Elizabeth Carter Bailey is going to be helping us. She's going to be one of the team. We have Speakeasy on Starling on February 22nd. So this is kind of like our kind of fun big blowout party for Martinsville. It's a really good time, and Elizabeth and one other foundation board member is going to be working with the curators down in our Speakeasy. And as such, any board member, any trustees can certainly also volunteer to work that with us. You get free access. We don't make you work the whole time and barely have you make a sweat.
I forgot to bring in the bourbon. It's in my car.
Well, I can get that for you. So, yeah, not gonna forget that. And we have
It's a donation.
we have an exhibit opening in just a little under 3 weeks, and that's gonna be our new dinosaur exhibit. So that's always a good push for new visitation. And Ryan and the team has set it up such that all state employees get to attend the exhibit for free. So that's good. And then last time we did that, we got quite a few people come from quite the distance. So, you know, it was pretty effective. It's been a long time since we've done that, though.
How do you advertise that?
Through the governor's office,
Okay,
they put out a press release, and then we kind of followed suit,
awesome.
so forth, yeah. And then the last thing I want to bring up with these events is that we're going to do a new one. This is going to be a little experimental, but I think it'll work. We're going to do a natural history of food series. So this is something that we think our vision right now is maybe do it twice a year. Now this is high end, like $100 ticket. We've got a chef, and we'll limit the tickets to about 50 or so people. And so the chef is prepared a menu for the first one, which is going to be the natural history of chocolate, be a 7-course meal. Every dish has chocolate or cocoa or some version of that as one of the ingredients. And it's going to be kind of fun, light, educational, you know, over champagne kind of thing. And then every dish has a paired wine and so forth. So we've got some help from the outside to make sure we class the joint up for that. So don't worry, it's not on me, right? And
7 glasses of wine. Are you gonna have designated buses to take people, 7 courses, 7 glasses of wine?
when I ran the origins of this at Fleet before it was stolen from me. And what we did was we gave partial glasses for the first,
Okay, good.
It was the first 5 courses, then the main course, you get a full glass, and then the dessert, you get those little aperitif glasses with the dessert wine. So, yeah. So we have some people here who'll handle it if we give them full glasses.
Yeah,
Don't you worry.
7 is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a Tuesday in Danville.
What's that?
That's a Tuesday in Danville.
I gotta spend more time in Danville. Good. So we'll have more on that, but, we find that doing things, like when we did the Pliny the Elder event and, we started doing speakeasy. I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but the data shows that we started getting more gifts and people matriculated up the donor pyramid,
Yeah.
right? So, we think if we can do, and we're gonna budget it to run it so that there's no loss of money, not to make a profit. And, the chef Janet Ashby will, help us with all that. So she'll determine what's needed and, what all the costs will be. And then the only costs on our part are simply gonna be, staff time. So, and if we just get a few tickets sold the first time, so be it, we'll run it anyway.
Well, it sounds too cool to not be popular,
I think it'll.
especially if you
so.
keep it small the first time.
Yeah.
I love the idea,
Yeah.
history of food, like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and so, ideas, we haven't selected what the next one is, we don't get ahead of ourselves, but other ideas would be things like the natural history of wine, the natural history of beer, the natural history of tomatoes, the natural history of peppers. And I got a laundry list of others that, we can use.
I think you picked the right first one.
Yes, that was to
Yeah,
That was-
compared to the other.
catch people's attention, for sure. Okay, last bit, just want to bring up, I don't have a lot, that we'll cover in the, VMH Waynesboro, committee tomorrow, but, just know that the architects and the exhibit teams are working hand in hand with the layout, because that's the big part of this section of detailed design, is such that, the infrastructure of the museum has to match the exhibit, vision. So we know where IT connections are, where electric is, and all these other things, where the live animals are gonna go and whatnot. So, that's all progressing quite well.
We're not dependent on any federal money for Waynesboro, are we?
No, but I am at the right time, I am gonna ask for, my plan was to ask for congressionally directed, spending to match, part of the foundation's gift. So, there's no sense in not, because we would have city funding, foundation or nonprofit funding, state funding. The last bit is gonna be, federal. So, to me, it would sweeten the pot, but it won't be necessary.
Might be 4 years from now.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see. But there's also gonna be more work that needs to be done after we open,
Yeah.
right? So, maybe we can get funds for, continued improvement with, green energy. So we'll just see how things shake out that way. Please note, and so for those of you here, attached to your agenda, we have a document called Strategies to Increase Board Member Involvement. This stemmed from, last board meeting. So basically, it's a 2-page document I'd like you all to look over. This should give you plenty of opportunities to find ways in which you can become involved. So related to that, the next bullet point under my report is challenge to be shared with the board. That's multifaceted. So every board member, and if you're not there, if you're there by Zoom, we're gonna mail you stuff, right? But every board member at their space is gonna have, an envelope, which is gonna have that aforementioned donor note, for you to write. It will also have, the letterhead and everything for you to write your letter. We've given you the verbiage. Write your letter, later this year, not right away, but after the General Assembly session, to the secretary, voicing your support for our movement from detailed design to the capital construction pool. And lastly, we also have your donor history, to kind of refresh your memory. And so this document at the end also has, just a laundry list of the ways in which you can participate through giving. So, this is something we can cover in more detail tomorrow, and so forth. But, I think it's a pretty good start to giving you a menu of options for involvement. And I think that's what I wanted to cover in my report. I know we have a few more bits towards the end that cover in detail.
Do you know if Mark reached out with regards to board, 100% board giving? He was going to, but I don't know.
I'm not aware, but
Okay.
that I wouldn't.
Okay, I'll
think
follow
that's- Yeah.
Was he gonna reach out to everybody or only people that didn't give?
I don't know what his plan was. I just didn't realize until we had our strategic planning session in Danville that we don't have 100% board giving. So he was going to share just express that
Mhm.
that's a good thing to have when you're applying for grants and period.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Can we pull that together? I think you already have.
Individually, for each individual board member, they will actually tomorrow receive a little statement in the envelope, so it's more of a personal
Okay,
thing. And it will say that the last time that they gave, their lifetime giving, whether they're a member or not, and how they can be involved in a greater fashion.
So maybe it'd be good for you to say it.
I
I know.
And you can provide for Melanie tomorrow the ratio. You know,
Okay.
The number of folks who give it.
you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, I was just, okay.
And honestly, it'd be good to talk about the distinction between being a member of the museum and giving, because I'm not sure I quite still understand that.
Wait a minute, say that again?
Giving, like making a donation
Ah, I
versus
see
being a
what you-
member of the museum, are they equivalent? Are they different? Which one should you do? Should you do both? Like,
Well, I would be foolish to not say, that you should do both.
I know, but
Right.
if somebody could explain
Sure.
the difference, I think that'd be really helpful, because I mean, I've been on the board now for a long time, and I'm not sure I quite understand the difference.
So, 100% of your, annual fund, or endowment giving goes straight to those programs. The annual fund is completely, unrestricted, so that provides the foundation the easy opportunity to move money towards different mission-based, projects. When you provide a membership, some of that, the majority of it goes to support museum operation the same way the annual fund does, except that a small portion of that goes towards, depending upon your level, if you donated $100 more above, something like $21 goes to your Smithsonian subscription. And there's a few other things pertaining to membership mailings and so forth, you know. So while the majority of a membership goes to support the museum, a small proportion goes to managing the membership program.
I think explaining that tomorrow would be really helpful.
I'll make a note of it.
Does the summary, individual summaries have the membership status? on it?
Yes, if you are a member, it says member on
Okay.
it, and then if you were in the past, it says renew your membership
Oh, that's.
or
okay.
become a member.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, so you can address that, or
Yep.
just like you did. That's-
There's also another way of giving too, because I remember when Cindy was still with us, one of the things that we did as members too was that when we traveled, when we did anything, we signed over a thing. So instead of getting reimbursed for mileage and whatever the stay was, that went back to the museum also.
Yeah, a lot of people took the reimbursement, but then wrote a check of an equivalent amount and sent that to the foundation. The good thing about the money going to the foundation, we can't transfer money from the museum to the foundation. That's illegal, right? But in that regard, where someone gets the money and then writes the check to the foundation, it's sort of like they're not seeing the money, you know, they're just driving or whatever. But then in the end, once it's in the foundation, you know, it's ours to use, right? It doesn't stand the chance of having to be spent at the end of the year, you know, use it or lose it, that sort of thing.
Explain that too. I never take reimbursement. I could get the reimbursement and give it to you guys. I mean, I never ever do, so.
Either way, if you spend it, you know, but, giving it to the foundation does provide some flexibility, so you can
I
certainly
just
do.
never get it. I never get it. I never ask for it.
I know,
But I could, and then give it back to you. So, I don't know. Somebody needs to explain all these little things to
Right.
people, because, this is not something I knew either, so.
So what you're saying is that it's in your budget, and if we don't request it, it can't go to the foundation, you just have to spend it. And
Yeah,
it
we
would be-
spend it on something at the end of the year,
Okay,
so.
okay, but it would be preferred to request it and write the check to the foundation?
There is more flexibility for the museum in that regard, right? So we don't have to spend it right away, or we can, you know, and then spending through the foundation, there's nothing wrong with it. You know, there's absolutely nothing illegal about it at all, but, sometimes spending through the foundation gives us better, flexibility. For instance, this isn't the case anymore, but back in the day, there was a company that Cal wanted to order insect supplies from. We're talking like maybe $2,000 worth at a time. One company in California, he could spend the $2,000 and get all the stuff. There is another company, I think in Virginia, that bought from the same company, the same materials, but then marked it up like 30%. right? And so the state wanted him to buy it through that company. So instead, we spent it through the foundation, so as not to waste it, because it is a waste, you know? I
Right.
mean, we understand SWAM, the small minority and women-owned businesses, as well as the idea of keeping the money in the Commonwealth. And you know, in Brian's report, you'll see that we are far above average in terms of our SWAM spending and whatnot. So, but once it goes to the foundation, there's so much more flexibility that we have with it. But we've never really pushed, you know, we want to make things as easy as possible on board members, but we can at least let the information get out there and people can make the decisions themselves. We can cover those.
Okay, I think that's a good idea, because I would have presumed, I'm just not gonna request it, and that's easier and better. I wouldn't have even thought. Okay.
That's actually what I was told.
Ridgeway to Lawrenceville, all 10 miles.
What'd you say, Jordan?
That's actually what I was told about reimbursement and giving back was the very first meeting I went to was in Waynesboro and they had us fill everything out. But then I was told that the money is already there. So if we don't ask for it, then that's just money that goes back to the museum. So for 10 years, I never asked for it thinking that money would go because it was already allotted. So if it's easier, that might be something we want to tell board members. It's easier to fill out for it and then write the check than it is for what I've been doing, because I was told it was easier not to fill out for it. Just don't take it. And then that money's there for y'all whenever y'all need it.
All right, we'll make sure that's all clarified tomorrow, so we can do that.
Okay, so old business, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I told you we're gonna get out early tomorrow. Okay, old business, so we were able to go toward Douglas Avenue at the last meeting. It looks great. It looks great, looks great. The storage is great. There's now space there for research and collection storage, the library. The library here at the facility, is currently housing the Young Explorer Center, so that's also a great use of space here. I don't know if anything else has happened since we toured or anything worth noting.
No, Jonathan unfortunately came out with the flu, so he was going to give a quick report on the contractor, but we are getting the term contract approved, and so that architect, first thing he's going to do is he's developing the scope of work. So what are we going to do over what period of time? So that's going to be a $50,000 project out of maintenance reserve, and he has also agreed to come to Martinsville when our AAM site review team is here, and he's gonna basically take half an hour and walk them through the building and say, these are the different projects we propose to work on, which I think will be cool, you know, so that's where all that stands.
Well, it
So we
looks
probably
great.
won't see any more physical work starting over there until, you know, late spring or summer.
Did you say we already have the Young Explorers thing set up here? in the
No.
Oh, why did
No.
I think they were meeting here?
Or what?
The Young Explorers Center?
Oh, we are doing it.
Do,
We
I'm
don't
sorry,
have it yet.
doing.
Yeah, we don't.
That's
we
what I
don't
thought.
have
I'm
it.
sorry.
I was like, that's so exciting.
No,
Well,
no,
I read it like it was
Yeah.
done. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We're doing another round of offering out, we asked for money for the compactors, and so, nobody bid on it. So, Real Property Management is revising that and is gonna send it out at a different cost. So in the end, it'll be no cost to us, that's for sure, but, we're gonna see if some money can be made off of it.
Okay. I apologize for that.
Well, I was excited.
I'm getting all ahead. Now, but the homeschool groups do meet in their space because we met in there. Correct? We
In-
met, we did the lab,
Oh, with the laboratory?
yes.
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
that's the
That's not the
micro-
library. Okay.
No, that's different. So
Okay.
that's the microscopy center. In fact, I just walked by there today and, Jordan had a class full of kids in there, dissecting flowers and everything. So that's going real well. And certainly homeschoolers, get to use that equipment as well.
Okay. Pavilion looks like it's almost done.
There's a little bit of concrete left now.
Can we go look at it after this, or will it be
Yes.
dark? It'll be dark.
It'll be light enough you can see things and I can show you what's coming next. Let me just say, and since this is live, I want to be careful. You can call going into closed session if you want. But we've reached out to the contractor and we're dissatisfied with the progress of work, right? And we just feel like we don't have any leverage. We just don't. So I guess all I'll say is that I do know we're gonna go into closed session to go through the FOIA training, right? And during closed session, I was planning on maybe bringing up a more detailed discussion tomorrow about the pavilion.
Oh, okay.
So if that's satisfactory for now,
That is,
I just don't wanna
that is.
talk openly about real estate,
Yeah.
well, not real estate, but outside contractors and work.
And the seeking of legal counsel.
Yes, yeah, that is correct.
Okay. So there isn't a date?
No.
Okay.
No, so the stairs haven't even been started and the concrete that they poured, there's an error in it and I pointed that out. It's very small, but I mean, we're paying for it, so there's no reason to get anything slipshod. So, that's something that has to be addressed. But we just have not, they poured it and said, okay, don't walk on it for 2 weeks, it has to cure. Right, and we did what they said, and we just don't hear back from them. So we're going. It's a subcontractor doing that work. The contractor. Well, I'll give details tomorrow. I'll give details
And then, of course, Joe provided an update on the
Yeah,
AAM.
I've pretty well covered that. I don't know the date. It's scheduled from sometime between mid-March and end of April is when the site team will come here. And once they alert me as to the window and we pick a date that's good for all concerned, we'll let the rest of the both boards know.
Okay, well, hopefully that will be before or in conjunction with our next meeting, which is May 17th, which will be here at the museum. Elizabeth, thank you for joining. I really appreciate your time and eagerness to participate, be part of this.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, thanks.
All right, any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Lauren. I know it's a slow, you're saying it's a slow time, but I'm sure that a slow time there is like a fast time in Martinsville. So
That's okay. Well, I'll see y'all virtually tomorrow as well.
very good. Thank
I'll
you.
see y'all live in person tomorrow.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you. We'll have coffee.